Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif arrived in Iran on Monday as part of a four-nation diplomatic tour to thank regional allies for their support during Pakistan's recent military tensions with India. His visit follows high-level meetings in Turkey with President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, where trade and investment were top of the agenda. In Tehran, PM Shehbaz, accompanied by senior ministers and Army Chief Qasem Munir, was welcomed by Iranian officials ahead of talks with President Masoud Pezeshkian at Sadabad Palace. He is expected to express gratitude for Iran's backing during recent hostilities and discuss enhanced cooperation. The delegation will also meet Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei to address broader regional peace efforts. Meanwhile, Turkish officials in Istanbul praised the strength of bilateral ties during PM Shehbaz's departure. These visits signal Islamabad's push to shore up diplomatic goodwill and maintain regional stability following military flare-ups with India. Back home, Finance Minister Mohammad 𝐒𝐭𝐲𝐬 announced that the federal government is crafting a strategic budget for FY 2025-26, aiming to break Pakistan's cycle of economic volatility. Speaking at an event in Islamabad, he said the upcoming budget, now postponed until June 10 amid ongoing talks with the International Monetary Fund, IMF, will move beyond just making the math work.
And our economy on a path of sustainable growth. और उसमें जो सारी एक्सपोर्ट लेड की डिस्कशन हो रही है, that's very important because that is where fundamentally the DNA of the economy has to change, and therefore we are going to bring some bold measures during the budget, because budget is not just about revenue and expenditure. Budget has to be providing the strategic direction of where the economy is and where it is headed, not only about next year, but at least signaling where we want to go as an economy.
We are going to bring some bold measures, 𝐒𝐭𝐲𝐬 said. He noted that debt servicing costs had dropped by ₹1 trillion and stressed the need for structural reform, including right-sizing government and modernizing debt management. The government's commitment to widening the tax base and digitalizing the Federal Board of Revenue is seen as vital to its ongoing IMF engagement and economic stabilization plan. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court of Pakistan resumed hearings on review petitions concerning the controversial allocation of reserved parliamentary seats. The issue stems from the 2024 general elections, where PTI-backed independents joined the Sunni Ittihad Council, SIC, after the party's election symbol was revoked. Justice Jamal Mandakale questioned this legal strategy, noting it led to the current dispute over seat entitlement. The SC had earlier ruled that 39 PTI-linked MNAs were legitimate winners, making PTI the largest party. However, the verdict was never fully implemented by the National Assembly or the Election Commission of Pakistan, prompting legal challenges from the ruling PMLN, PPP, and ECP. The case has exposed deep institutional divides and highlighted the SC's role in safeguarding democratic norms. The court's live-streamed proceedings mark a rare step toward transparency as it wrestles with questions about party rights, election law, and the ECP's responsibilities. U.S. President Donald Trump lashed out at Russian President Vladimir Putin, calling him absolutely crazy after Russia launched the largest aerial assault of the war on Ukraine. In a post on Truth Social, Trump said Putin's ambitions may stretch beyond eastern Ukraine. He wants all of Ukraine, but if he does, it will lead to the downfall of Russia, he warned. Speaking in New Jersey, Trump further criticized Putin's brutal campaign.
I'm not happy with what Putin's doing. He's killing a lot of people, and I don't know what the hell happened to Putin. I've known him a long time, always gotten along with him, but he's sending rockets into cities and killing people, and I don't like it at all, okay? We're in the middle of talking, and he's shooting rockets into Kiev and other cities. I don't like it at all.
President, what do you want to do about that?
I'm surprised. I'm very surprised. We'll see what we're going to do. What am I going to tell you? You're the fake news, aren't you? You're totally fake. All right, any other questions? I don't like what Putin is doing, not even a little bit. He's killing people. And something happened to this guy, and I don't like it.
The Kremlin responded by thanking Trump for aiding peace efforts but attributed his remarks to emotional overload. Meanwhile, Russia's massive overnight drone and missile barrage killed at least 12 civilians, including children, in what Ukraine described as the most intense aerial attack since the war began. Fighting continues to rage in the east, with no clear path to peace. Russia does not consider the Vatican a viable location for peace talks with Ukraine, citing geopolitical, religious, and logistical concerns, according to 3 senior Russian sources speaking to Reuters. The Holy See, surrounded by NATO and EU member Italy, is viewed in Moscow as too closely aligned with Western interests to act as a neutral mediator. Despite U.S. President Donald Trump's recent suggestion that Pope Leo XIV could host negotiations following a call with President Vladimir Putin, Russian officials are skeptical. They argue that both Russia and Ukraine are predominantly Eastern Orthodox, while the Vatican represents Catholicism. Additionally, Western sanctions have made travel to Rome nearly impossible for many Russian officials. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni said Pope Leo XIV confirmed his willingness to host talks, but the Kremlin has remained non-committal, stating only that no decision has been made. Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov called the idea a bit inelegant, and a Russian official even joked that The Hague, home of the ICC, which has issued an arrest warrant for Putin, would be a more fitting venue. Instead, Moscow sees countries like Turkey, Qatar, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Oman as more credible mediators in the ongoing conflict. Ukraine has confirmed that China is supplying key materials to Russian defense factories, according to Ola Ivashchenko, chief of Ukrainian foreign intelligence. Speaking to state news agency Ukrinform, Ivashchenko said intelligence reports show China is providing machine tools, specialty chemicals, gunpowder, and other components directly to Russian military manufacturers. We have confirmed data on 20 Russian factories receiving Chinese supplies, Ivashchenko stated, marking a significant escalation in Kyiv's claims of Beijing's involvement in supporting Moscow's war effort. He also cited at least 5 instances of cooperation in the aviation sector between Russia and China in 2024 to 2025, including the transfer of parts, equipment, and technical documentation. The revelations follow Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's recent public accusation that China is supplying Russia with weapons and gunpowder, a claim Beijing has rejected as groundless. In response, Kyiv imposed sanctions on 3 Chinese entities linked to the alleged military transfers. Ivashchenko added that Ukrainian intelligence had tracked 6 major shipments of specialty chemicals from China to Russia, though further details were not disclosed. Reuters has requested comment from China's foreign ministry, but the claims have not yet been independently verified. Israel's military campaign has effectively dismantled Gaza's already fragile healthcare system, according to Azil Baydoun, Deputy Director of Advocacy and Campaigns at UK-based Medical Aid for Palestinians. Speaking to Al Jazeera from Ramallah, Baydoun said that 90% of Gaza's 531 healthcare facilities are now non-functional, and over 1,400 health workers have been killed. When I speak to doctors in Gaza, they're exhausted, starving, and overwhelmed, she said. Every hospital has been targeted, and medical staff are either detained or killed. Baydoun highlighted a recent airstrike on the home of 2 local doctors, which killed 9 of their 10 children, as part of a broader pattern. These are not isolated incidents. They violate international humanitarian law and reflect a systematic effort to dismantle healthcare in Gaza, she said. Before October 2023, Gaza's healthcare infrastructure was already under immense strain due to years of blockade and conflict. Now, amid continued bombardment, what remains is described as a humanitarian catastrophe. MAP and other organizations are urging international intervention to protect medical workers and restore access to life-saving care for Gaza's population. The Palestinian delegation has secured the right to fly its flag at the World Health Organization, following a symbolic vote at the agency's annual assembly in Geneva. The proposal, introduced by China, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, and others, passed with 95 votes in favor, 4 against, including Israel, Germany, Czech Republic, and Hungary, and 27 abstentions. France and Japan supported the motion, while Britain abstained. Though largely symbolic, Palestinian Ambassador Ibrahim Qureshi hailed the move as a step toward greater recognition within the United Nations system. It is symbolic in one act, but a sign that we are part of an international community to help on health needs, he said. The vote comes on the heels of a broader Palestinian push for UN membership and amid renewed calls for Palestinian statehood, with France reportedly considering recognition. Lebanon's delegate described the decision as a small ray of hope for Palestinians enduring immense suffering, particularly in Gaza. The WHO, currently redefining its direction as the U.S. plans to exit the agency, recently granted Palestinians the right to receive outbreak alerts under its international health regulations. Palestinians remain official observers at the WHO and continue to seek full membership. A breakthrough draft ceasefire agreement has been reached between Hamas and U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff during negotiations in Doha, sources confirmed to Al Jazeera on Monday. The proposed deal outlines a 60-day ceasefire between Israel Israel and Hamas, marking a potential step toward easing months of deadly conflict. According to details of the draft, Hamas has agreed to release 10 Israeli captives, 5 at the start of the ceasefire and 5 more on the final day of the 2-month truce. In exchange, Israel would release an unspecified number of Palestinian prisoners in 2 phases. The deal also includes the return of the bodies of several deceased individuals held by Hamas. While the agreement remains in draft form, its confirmation signals rare progress in indirect negotiations mediated by Qatar. If finalized, the deal would mark the most significant de-escalation since hostilities intensified last year. The proposal still requires approval from Israeli and Hamas leadership, but diplomatic sources suggest momentum is building toward a temporary pause in violence and a possible path to broader negotiations in the weeks ahead.